Excellent. And I'll keep letting people in as they trickle in. Good morning, everyone. Good to have you back. If you were with us for our first webinar with Worthwhile Ventures, if this is your first webinar as part of the Social and Sustainable Procurement Program, welcome. It's good to have you here. My name is Will. I'm from Community. I'm the Community Engagement Manager. And as part of this Social and Sustainable Procurement Program that we're running with Medline, I've had the pleasure of facilitating a couple of these webinars and facilitating some volunteering opportunities as well. Hey, Brad, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Yeah, great. Good to see you all.
So for those who missed our first webinar, the Social and Sustainable Procurement Program is all about learning about social procurement. There's two educational webinars. Today we'll have social traders presenting as well. But it's also about how you can contribute to the sector as well. So over the 4 weeks, we shared a bit of a timeline where it looks like learning and doing. So as part of NAIDOC Week, we looked with Worthwhile Ventures at how we can support Indigenous enterprises. And today we're looking at social procurement essentials. We have, for those who filled out the expression of interest to volunteer, I've started emailing you throughout this week. We'll have a bit of time to talk about that at the end of this session. If you have any questions, or if you haven't had a chance to fill out the form and you're interested in volunteering, I'll send that link out again. So we can start volunteering. This is our last official webinar, but we'll be gathering together on August 11th to kind of wrap up the program, talk about what we learned. We'll get people to fill out a bit of a survey to understand how you found the sessions as well. But thanks so much for joining. I would love to start by acknowledging the Darug people and nation as the traditional custodians of the land that I'm joining from. So I'm out in Western Sydney. If you would like to throw an acknowledgement of country in the chat, you can let us know where you're joining in from. But today it won't be myself presenting. I'll pass it on to Abby and Kris from Social Traders to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. And hello, everyone. Good morning. Major thanks to Will for sharing the slide deck for us. So I might be tossing in the next slide here and there. So bear with me. So today we are going to cover social procurement essentials. We'll share with you a little bit about social traders, who we are and what we do, our focus and passion for social enterprise. And we're going to cover off some of the social procurement basics. But before getting started, I just wanted to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I am calling in today. So that's the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So in the word here on the slide is Wominjeka. So that is the language group of the Wurundjeri people. And traditionally, people know that word to mean welcome, but we started looking into it a little bit more. And when you go into more direct translation, it actually means more directly an invitation. So it's an invitation to come with purpose. And I think that is a really perfect way to open into this content and start talking about social procurement with all of you. So Wominjeka. Today, myself and my wonderful colleague Kris are going to be facilitating through this content. My name is Abby. I am the innovation lead at Social Traders. So looking at new things that we can offer within the social procurement marketplace to support buyers to embed more social enterprises into their supply chains. And I am joined by Kris. Kris is a social procurement advisor sitting on our social procurement services team. So he gets to do the amazing work of connecting our business and government members to our certified social enterprises. And working through challenges and solutions on both sides of the market.
Good morning, I'm Jenka.
Thanks, Kris. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we dig into the content. So this is a workshop, not a lecture. Will said in the last webinar, you all were fabulous at taking yourselves off mute, asking questions. We asked the same thing for this one. So we have quite a bit of content. So we'll be moving through it. But if you do have questions at any point throughout, please put up your hand, just directly take yourself off mute and jump in, or feel free to put something in the chat, and Kris and myself will be monitoring that. And we'll get back to you on your questions. We will also be using Slido for a couple of polls today. So if you don't have your phone right next to you right now, get to a place where you do have it, or just open up a web browser, because that is how we will answer the Slido poll. So a quick note on the agenda for the day and some of the main topics we're going to cover. So we're going to go through the key stakeholders and concepts. So this is so that we can enter into the conversation having some shared understanding of what we mean when we say social enterprise. Kris and I work in this space all the time, and it's always a critical point to talk about what we mean when we say the word social enterprise. So we'll cover off some of those key concepts. Then we'll talk a little bit about the why. So why do we think social procurement is the thing that should be done? What's the business case for it? And where do we see this going? What's the trajectory for social procurement? Is it sticking around? We'll also take a look at identifying opportunities, giving you some levers that you can think about within your own roles. And then we'll look at social procurement tactics. So just some points within the procurement process to take a moment to consider social benefit suppliers, but more specifically social enterprises. We will hopefully have a bit of time for some very quick discussion, and we'll leave you with a few resources that are available. Getting us started, though, we are going to kick off with the Slido. So to give us a bit of a picture as to where you're at right now, we are asking the question, how much do you know about social procurement? So yeah,
I've also put a link there in the chat as well, so feel free to click through, and you can do it on your screen, or get your phones out and scan the QR code. Let's all pretend it's 2020. We're checking in here. A few simple questions, and I'll just share, if I could, Abby, the live feed of the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Give me one sec, guys. Boom. So there you are. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to win? It's not a competition, but basically just asking, how much did you know, or do you know, about social procurement before coming here today? And every answer is fine, except for I could run this session, because we may just get you to run the session. But if that's where you're at, please.
By all means. So it seems like a lot are kind of coming in around the not much, maybe you get the basics. A few people are working with social enterprises. Love that. If you'd like to, would love to hear who they are in the chat, or come off mute and tell us about it.
I mean, technically you're working with a social enterprise right now, because you're working with social traders, so you all could answer that.
And communitier. Yeah.
And communitier, yes, exactly.
That's right. Excellent. Well, it seems like we got most of the responses in. That gives us a really good idea of where you're sitting today. And I think the content is really well suited to give you a bit of a picture on the basics and a few cues on what to do from here. So, Kris, I think you're
Yeah.
going to stop sharing, and then Will, if you could jump back in.
Stop sharing. There you go.
Great.
So who was it? Who was it that answered that they're currently working with some social enterprises? I'm just going to.
I did. Yeah,
Great.
Jackie, Louise.
Yeah, me.
Okay, fantastic. What kind of social enterprises are you engaging with?
I just organised recently some T-shirts for our volunteers here at Medline. So I use an organisation in Queensland, and they were funding, I think, some basketball courts for people to use to get together. And I've got a couple of projects coming up that I'm potentially going to be using some suppliers for as well.
Fantastic. And Jackie?
And I was just going to say, Louise, the coffee van as well.
Yeah, and the coffee van as well. We've got a coffee van that I organise that comes every Wednesday, which is a social enterprise, and they allow for people who are underemployed to get some skills in like barista,
Awesome.
and they have like 6 hours, I think it is, of training, and then they've got those extra skills to take out into the workplace.
Excellent.
And they serve us coffee at the same time.
I was going to say, most importantly, caffeination.
Yeah. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you guys, so the fact that we're using Communitea in itself is a social supplier. And then I've just been working through different possibilities as we go along, really.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing.
Fabulous. Thanks, everyone. So with that, we're going to head into the key stakeholders and concepts. So for Louise, I think it was, who's already working with social enterprises, you'll have a good idea already, but we'll clarify that for everybody else. Kris, do you want to take us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to give you the basic concepts to start with as well, and then we'll work our way into tailoring it to your application. But so social traders, who are we? We are an intermediary organisation. So we have a few different functions where we are actually the national certifier of social enterprises. So I'm not sure if you knew that before today, but as a social enterprise, you can actually get certification to validate your model and your impact and how you reinvest your efforts and revenue and resources. So we do that. We have a certification structure that we started up, I think, in 2016, I'm going to say, and continues today. And we have over 500 certified social enterprises around the country now. My role, I'm a social procurement advisor. What does that mean? It means that I work between our business and government buyers, the organizations that pay us a membership fee, and they want to actively buy from social enterprises. So I hook them up with opportunities that they could work with our social enterprises to purchase from them and establish those relationships so that that gets ingrained in their supply chain. So that's a membership model that we have. And we also have an advocacy role. So we've done some great work with governments, particularly in Victoria. I'm in Queensland. We've got a whole of government membership here and in New South Wales, which is what I was just on a call about previously. And we work with them to all of their different departments to identify opportunities to purchase from social enterprises as well. So there's an advocacy role there to ingrain in policy social procurement, purchasing from social enterprises, and also encourage it amongst those organisations as well. So that's what we do. Next slide there, Abby. So social enterprise, I was asked yesterday, is there just one definition? Because everyone seems to have a different definition of what a social enterprise is. And we like to think that we are the definition, and this is our version. So social enterprises have three main components. So they have a purpose, they derive income from trade, and they reinvest into their purpose. So the purpose is a social, cultural, or environmental purpose that they attach to. So they identify as being businesses for good that have public benefit. So that has to be ingrained in their constitution if they have a structure that requires that. So it's at the center of what they do and why they exist. Importantly, they're not charities per se. You can be a not-for-profit and be a social enterprise, but the differentiation we have is that the substantial portion of your income is actually coming from trade, being out there with your goods and services in the market, competing and winning contracts and having over 50% of your revenue come that way. So that's a really important definer. And then the reinvestment, putting your money where your mouth is. So you're saying that you're about this cause, well, you're actually reinvesting not just revenue, but we also say efforts and resources. So, you know, you are actually contributing back to that public benefit and documenting that and measuring that impact that you're having, which is really important. Any questions about that? It's a long-winded definition, I know, but it's comprehensive. All good. So yeah, social procurement is taking the goods and services that those social enterprises provide and having them purchased by our business and government members or anyone out there in the market, which provides social impact. So what is social impact? That is where people and organizations are already spending money on goods and services anyway. They choose to do that with social enterprises and you get the bonus impact. That's how I like to see it. So it's redistributing your current spend or future opportunities with social enterprises. And we like to say you get the impact for free. Sometimes it costs a little bit more, but it depends what you value in your organization.
Yeah, great point, Kris. And just one thing to add in there are so many ways of doing good within an organization. Engaging with community here to do volunteering and mentoring is a great example of that. A thing that we at Social Traders really focus on, though, is social procurement. So utilizing your procurement spend to create impact as a result of your spend, rather than CSR or volunteering. So we really look at the money that you spend as an organization and how to redirect some of that money to social benefit suppliers that just by engaging with them, you are creating additional impact above and beyond the value of the goods and services themselves.
Absolutely. And we're not the only organization that operates in this field. So you can see on the screen there that there's a number of intermediaries that we also work with that supply services to help organizations purchase from businesses for good. We differentiate because we're all about the beneficiaries. You know, who is the impact benefiting, whether that's the environment or whether that's through inclusive employment opportunities or whether that's through other social impacts. So we're all about the beneficiaries and assisting organizations to have positive impact. Other organizations out there, so Supply Nation, really great organization that represents and work with Indigenous owned businesses. So they're about ownership, as are We Connect, which are female owned businesses, and Kinaway, which are a Chamber of Commerce of Indigenous owned businesses in Victoria as well. So they're all about the ownership. And B Corp, we often get referred to, oh, you're kind of like B Corp, and we kind of are, in that we are trying to do good. B Corp is all about the operation and the how an organization conducts themselves. So doing so in a sustainable manner and measuring that. So hopefully that just helps to differentiate where we're coming from with being an impact-focused, beneficiary-focused organization versus the ownership or the how models. Sorry to confuse you if I did. So certification is really important. We began doing this in response to an emerging trend. There is the possibility for organizations to identify as social enterprises, but maybe not be properly enacting what that means. So our certification is a way for organizations to reassure themselves that they are working with certified businesses that measure their impact and what they say they're spending their money on, they are spending their money on. So we do that extensively with social enterprises to look at their legal documents, as I said, making sure their primary purpose is ingrained in their documentation, their legal documents. We look at their financial statements to look at where their income is coming from and making sure that over 50% is coming from trade. And we also look at the impact, how they're redistributing some of that revenue, those efforts or those resources back into their purpose. So you can rest assured when you see our logo that that certified business is doing what they say they're doing. So there's heaps of popular social enterprise examples. These are some. I think the who gives a crap is something that you can't escape in society anymore. You'll see that in bathrooms throughout Australia. So starting at that side, they have what we call a profit redistribution model. So they go out there, they compete in the open market, they sell their products, they give a really efficient service. Obviously, it's delivered to your door, it's recurring, you don't have to think about it. There's just toilet paper that appears magically, and they give away 50% of their profits. And the gentleman was in the news yesterday. I think it's millions of dollars. I can't recall the number, but yeah, they're up to like 7.6 million, I think.
They're on a big marketing kick at the moment.
Yeah.
One is based in Sydney. You might be seeing their billboards all around.
Yeah, so they've been, I thought the figure was about 7.6 million that I saw last night in an article anyway, don't quote me. But that's going to global sanitation services. So they're very clear about what they're doing. They transparent, this is what we do. We take the money and we give it to a really great cause. Thanks for working with us. The community need model, I like to look at this as an embedded impact model. So by doing what you do, you're creating public benefit, either economic, socially, or culturally. Sorry, environmentally, socially, or culturally. And yes, St. John's Ambulance, really great example of this. So they exist to help those in sickness, distress, suffering, or danger, and they provide services, obviously first aid kits and training to corporate organisations as a revenue model as well. So they're certified, which people are also a little bit surprised of sometimes. So yeah, if you do have first aid kits, it's a really nice, easy way to get that social spend up. And YouthWorks, I'm not too across their actual organisation, sorry, Abby, but
yeah. They are a creative agency that work in supporting youth, so disengaged youth. They are a really good example of a social enterprise who I think does a bit of myth busting. Sometimes we hear from procurement teams within organizations that social benefit suppliers or social enterprises specifically only do cleaning and catering, or do kind of really basic maintenance type of stuff. But YouthWorks is a great example of a fabulous creative agency. They do amazing videography work, and they provide training and employment to youth at risk of homelessness. So they're really giving them a new path that they can follow in life and empowering them through employment. And I think important to note, each of these are singular examples of social enterprises that if you haven't heard of, give them a Google because they're fabulous. But they also show you examples of each of our three impact models. So when a social enterprise is going through our certification process, they have to nominate one primary impact model, which is how their business creates impact. So that is either through employment and training, through community need, or through profit distribution. And then from the data that we receive from these organizations as they're going through certification, we are able to translate procurement and corporate spend with certified social enterprises into the impact that's being generated as a result of that spend, which is a nice segue, Kris, to talk us through that.
So insert big number. So we've been working with organisations, since 2018 on social procurement. So this is a cumulative number of $607 million that we've seen spent between our members and our certified social enterprises. So we track all of that spend, and we provide, if you want to click through again there, Abby, we actually provide a breakdown to our business and government members and what that means. So yes, you've spent money with this organisation, but that's actually helped to employ 3,730 people in full-time jobs. And as you can see, 1,500 pathways to employment. As Abby said, people at risk of homelessness or recently incarcerated or in long-term unemployed, getting those pathways and that opportunity and that leg up is a huge change to their life. The training hours as well, to take people on a journey where they've got recognised qualifications and training, and they might not have qualified for that training through other traditional methods, but they've been given opportunities or taken opportunities to get that training under their belt and go on a career path. As you can see, investment in community services, so some of that redistributed profit model that we were talking about, $43.5 million there and $8.4 million in donations to charity as well. So using those profits for good. And then you've got this environmental arm, which we're building a bit at the moment as well, but 16,000 tonnes of waste. That's a lot of waste that some of our social enterprises focus on fixing environmental problems as well, which is super important.
And I think just amazing looking at these figures. I like to take just a second on this slide because I think it's easy to let numbers kind of go through us, and you look at them and yeah, okay, great numbers, but I think it's really important to just take a moment and acknowledge the fact that each of these numbers are individual people's lives that have been impacted and changed for the better, simply because of a procurement decision you have made. So there is so much power in that, and for the fact that the $607 million, when we're talking about value or value for money for anyone in the procurement team we're talking to, that would be, I'm sure, a common part of your conversations talking about value for money. You're still getting the value of the goods and services within the $607 million. But when you buy from social enterprise, you're also getting all of this additional value. So talk about value for money. It goes really above and beyond in a way that a traditional commercial supplier just can't and doesn't.
Yeah, and even just being here today and working with Communitea, that is, you're on your way to contributing to those numbers growing, which is exciting. This is a little sample of the reports that we give to our business and government buyer members. So it just does that breakdown on an individual level, their total spend, how many social enterprises they've supported, the amount of full-time employees they've supported in that financial year, and all of those other metrics that we talked about there with training and tons of waste diverted from landfill. So it's a really awesome little report that can get shared around the organization and go, look at what we did and look at what we're doing. And this is the why that we're spending the time to research and get to know social enterprise capability and actually working with them in meaningful partnerships that help them grow, because as they grow with your spend, these numbers and those lives continue to get changed. So yeah, it's a really useful tool that we have to keep our members engaged and understand what they're actually up to. So as Abby just said there as well, so it comes down to the individual life. So we look at it from a macro national scale, which is really exciting, and we can, but when you meet the individuals who actually are taking up these opportunities that they might not have gotten, it's really meaningful. So Fruit to Work is a great social enterprise that's one of our Grow members. So we run a program where we actually work directly with a selection of social enterprises to make meaningful connections with our buyers and help that organization on their growth path. So Fruit to Work has recently gone through that. And Simon, is he the gentleman that was on the project, Abby? Is that him? I'm trying to visualize.
Watch it when they were on the project.
I'm pretty sure it is. He was a character. Yeah.
He is a character. I can confirm that, yes.
So he was incarcerated, you know, and as he says in the last bit of the quote there, that he got a job with Fruit to Work as someone who's just come out of prison, and he felt like a human being again. His confidence grew, and he is a successful man. He's on the project, he's famous. And the job opportunity helped save and change his life, which, you know, basically Fruit to Work do something quite simple, but it provides so much meaning. They really, their business model, I don't know if anyone on the call is aware, they primarily operate in Victoria, I believe, but they are expanding, Abby. So they deliver fruit, basic supplies to offices, so that, yeah, basically office workers don't have to do anything. They just rock up and there's delicious, healthy fruit that keeps them at work. There's milk that keeps them caffeinated. There's coffee and other things that just magically arrive. And the guys who are and ladies who are doing that delivery are people who've just re-entering the workforce and been given an opportunity to do so. So really amazing operation that makes a lot of impact and helps people have a second chance.
And an amazing statistic that they have. So the national recidivism rate, so that's the reoffending rate for those leaving the justice system, that's right around 50%. So about half of people who find themselves in the justice system end up reoffending and going back to jail. Fruit to Work, because of their intervention and all of their support, they actually have a 0% recidivism rate. So that means no one who has gone to Fruit to Work after being released from the justice system has reoffended. It's remarkable. And this is the type of impact that social enterprises are creating. All right, so the big, nice impact story, we've got that. Now let's get into a bit more of the details. So just going to walk through really quickly, kind of talking about the why of social procurement and why you as an organization should be considering it and the business case for that. So we know that what we are starting to see at Social Traders is a real shift in the market from this kind of do no harm approach to actually a more proactive and positive approach to social license to operate is what we're hearing more and more. So this is coming up in social procurement policies and strategies. We're seeing this really come up in annual reports. In ESG policies, so environmental social governance. So these kind of frameworks to measure the type of work that organizations are doing in outside of just themselves and how they're creating impact in community wider. We also know from a business case perspective and reputation that brands with purpose have improved recognition. So a great example of that is Patagonia made waves in the news last year when they changed their ownership structure to put all of their profits into the foundation to really support the mission that they're behind. We're just in a session yesterday where we talked about how that really shifts people's opinions, and people are more willing to spend more money on products for brands that are purpose aligned rather than not. So this also takes us into profitability. So for tenders, if you're responding to government tenders, these governments, particularly across the East Coast, that are looking more and more at social procurement requirements and wanting to know what you are doing in that space. We also know that investors, consumers, citizens, they're making purchasing decisions based on what you are doing to do good through your organization. We also see it in the risk profile. So mitigations to external threats. We know that strength in the diversity of a supply chain is a good thing. So adding more diversity to your supply chain through social benefit suppliers is helping to reduce your risk. And finally, your people. We know that the new workforce that is coming out from youth right now, they are wanting purpose in their work. So they are wanting to know what organizations are doing to do good aside from just profit and just their business. So we know it makes an impact on employee retention and employee engagement. Next, we've got a bit of a timeline to show you what's happened. I won't go into great detail here, but we will share the slides afterwards. You can go back. This is just a really quick overview to show you that this is not brand new. It's been happening for a while, and big moves have been made in space. So starting back at 2015, the first kind of move we see in this space is the Indigenous procurement policy from federal government mandating spend with Indigenous businesses. So then we bring it all the way up to today. We have got multiple state governments requiring social procurement or encouraging social procurement. And we see the likes of BlackRock, so the CEO letters saying that they are looking for purpose and impact aside from just profit. And finally, we know that this is catching on. So at Social Traders, we have got a 10-year vision to unlock $5.5 billion in demand for social enterprises. So this is our goal for 2030, as you would have just seen. We have tracked $607 million in spend so far. By 2030, we expect that number to be $5.5 billion. So the trajectory at this point is only going up. We see more and more people signing on to this and acknowledging that this is the way the future is going. We also have big spenders in this space as well. So John Holland is a member of Social Traders, and they were our last year's big spender. So they reported $12.7 million worth of spend with certified social enterprises only. So that does not count what they're doing in the Indigenous or First Nations business space and others. And they're tracking spend with 59 certified social enterprises. So it's pretty remarkable, and we see these numbers growing more and more. So there is a business case. We see that it's happening. So how can you do it? How can you identify opportunities? So we know this is a change management process. Change within the organization is hard. We are not afraid to say that, but we think it is worthwhile. So we understand that it's challenging and it's a change management piece. And you can't exactly just say, okay, well, this sounds great, and from now on, we're just going to buy everything from social enterprises, because that is not how procurement works, and it's not that simple, unfortunately. But we have kind of tracked some best practice from some of our buyers to share with you kind of initial first places go. So we understand and acknowledge there is a supply and demand gap. So with increasing government policy pointing businesses to social procurement, we know there is a lot of demand, and certified social enterprises can't meet all of that demand currently. So there is a supply and demand gap. So it's important to kind of make a few considerations as you're considering engaging with social enterprises. So we know that the risk appetite is something to consider. So we're not willing to say, take on a social enterprise that you've never worked with before for your highest risk, high security, high value contracts. It's totally reasonable to start small. Just start somewhere and then move up to those. Another challenge we hear a lot is existing procurement practices. So you might have standard agreements, contracts in place, good relationships with current suppliers that you're not willing to break. We're not trying to convince anyone to change suppliers based on, no bad behavior. If you've got a great relationship, keep those relationships. What we're asking is keep an open mind for new opportunities to engage social enterprise. Would encourage the challenging of addressing price as a determining factor. As we talked about before, social enterprises are occasionally at a higher price point, but when we're talking about value for money, they are actually providing so much more value above and beyond the value of just the goods and the services themselves. So really interrogate that price point and why it's there. Internal engagement and understanding is critical. This is an amazing step. Your engagement with Unitier to start talking about these concepts is a great place to be. So you're doing it already. And I can't recommend enough, early planning for supplier engagement is critical. So for social benefit suppliers, they often need a longer lead time in order to meet requirements for contracts. So engage them early, have conversations, and be as open as you can. So based on those challenges, we also like to recommend a path of least resistance. So again, within our work, we've identified that there are really 3 key levers that you can pull on as an organization to start implementing social procurement and engaging with social benefit suppliers. So the first one, and probably honestly the most common one that we see, is champions. So here we're talking about people. Change happens with people. Organizations are made of people. This is a very people-based space. So lean into the people who are excited by this. Louise, I think you're jumping out to me right now. You're already engaging with social enterprises. So you're a champion in this space. So how can we use the expertise of the champions to continue to identify new opportunities and grow on those wins? The second part is systems. So this is an area where maybe you have a really mature procurement function. So you already have really strong procedures and policies in place. So this is where you leverage those systems that you have to enable better engagement with social benefit suppliers. Had a great example of this in a training I was running yesterday. So this is with an organization who actually put in a stopgap within their procurement process so that any purchase under $200,000 had an immediate kind of note put on it that the procurement team had to engage the social procurement team, so the people who look after social benefit suppliers, and that if they were not going to use social benefit supplier for that contract, there had to be provided a written justification as to why not. So this is an amazing example of leaning into your systems. What systems do you have? that can better enable these changes. And third, final but not last, purpose. So if you as an organization already have embedded some type of purpose or mission within your organization, lean into that and identify social benefit suppliers who also align with that purpose. So an example here, if a business is operating in the housing space or the housing sector, they might want to align with social benefit suppliers who respond to and assist those experiencing homelessness. Thanks, Will. Yep, 10 minutes. We'll go snappy on this one. So the next bit, just wanted to identify a few ways that you can engage social enterprises. And starting with the easiest place, how do you engage social enterprises in the office? So just buying things within your office. So IT can be purchased from social enterprises. Training, professional development training, leadership training. Did you know you could buy art from social enterprises? So Color Space is a good example. Plants. So if you've got plants in your office, social enterprises do that. Cleaning. Staffing. We've got a lot of social enterprises operating in the recruitment space. E-waste, facilities maintenance, office design fit out, also defits as well. Catering off to the side, that's an important one. Data telco, so you can actually procure cell phones. We've got
and power as well. I was talking to a renewable power company called Indigo Power, where you can actually purchase power in Victoria and expanding to the East Coast. So yeah, it's full of surprises.
Great ad, Kris. So finally, we'll just end with a few tactics to consider within the procurement process to engage social enterprises. So we'll be looking at project and supplier market scoping, market engagement, an assessment approach, and supplier relationships. These are really key levers to support social procurement within your organization. So first, project and supplier market scoping. So this is looking at the beginning of a procurement decision and taking a moment to slow down and to think, going into opening up a tender or a new contract with a new supplier. Is there opportunity to unbundle packages of work? So maybe there is a package of work that is national. Does it have to be? Or could it potentially be broken up into different geographies and regions so that you can engage social enterprises? So it's a good opportunity to take a look at the social enterprise market capability and see if there are ways to separate contract components so that you can match with that capability. This is something we at Social Traders do all the time with our business and government experts. So this is something we love to help out with. Next, we look at market engagement. So this is crucial when thinking about engaging with social enterprises, and I really can't state it enough. Talk to them, talk to social enterprises. It's an amazing way to get across their product and service delivery and to get your head around the amazing type of impact that they create as well. But it's also a good way to let them know what's coming up. So social enterprises are often have fewer resources than traditional commercial entities. So they might need longer to respond to EOIs or tenders. So is it possible to extend response time? Is it possible to look at selective tenders for only social suppliers? So are there particular opportunities where you can just say, nope, we have gated this area off for only social enterprises? And to be really clear about your social procurement activities. So be attractive to social enterprises as well. have supplier briefings, tell them about what's coming up. We can help by sending out EOIs or tenders that are opening to our certified social enterprise. Next, we have an assessment approach. So looking at potentially weighted criteria for social. So understanding your supplier capability, look at potentially pre-qualifying suppliers for multiple internal stakeholders, and really importantly, evaluating social in the responses. So if you can put weighting within a tender for social, this is where social enterprises will really shine within the tender process. If you're asking them to be compared against other commercial suppliers, it's a tough game for them to play, because occasionally they might not have the geography spread that others would have, but they do have impact in that, something that commercial counterparts don't. So look at weighted criteria for social within tenders. On our portal for our members, we have some example sample tender clauses that consider social, and then the associated weighting that we would recommend for those sample tender clauses. So something we can help with as well. And then finally, supplier relationships. Again, can't say this enough. Relationships are everything in this space. If you don't know of social enterprises right now, we so strongly encourage you to pick up the phone and get to know them. Better yet, go on a site visit and see the work that they do in real time. This is the stuff that leads to true partnerships. And when partnerships form, it's when the magic happens. We've got an amazing example here of Too Good Co., a certified social enterprise based in Sydney, and Charter Hall. They have had a long-standing relationship. Charter Hall engaged them to do the soap dispensers for all of their properties, and wanted those soap dispensers to be made of recycled plastic. So this engagement resulted in Charter Hall investing in Too Good Co. at the forefront to create a new product. And then that product that they made pulled out tons of plastic waste from oceans and created this new product for Charter Hall's facilities. So amazing example here, leaning into relationships and identifying new and innovative approaches. So now noting we are just at the very end. So anybody have any thoughts? Would love to hear from you. Anything that's resonated, any challenges you have, or opportunities you're starting to think about? It's been a lot of information, so fair enough.
Hi, Abby.
Hey, Jackie.
Hey, I just so you mentioned that there's this kind of subscription fee there. I just wanted to point out, I just had a look at your website there. We don't necessarily have to pay a subscription for you to look for a supplier that you might be able to work with. On the website, it lists, you can look for certified businesses, and you can search for what kind of product you're looking for or what service you're looking for. I just wanted to make people aware of that.
Absolutely. It's almost like we planted that, but we didn't. We didn't plan it. Will, if you'll go to the next slide. Yes, we have got the Social Enterprise Finder. So this is our public directory on our website. So this is where you can search for certified social enterprises. You do not have to be a business and government member of Social Traders in order to see this information. We do have a more detailed directory within our portal for members to give more detail on capability statements and insurances and things like that. But if you are looking for a social enterprise, go to our website, look at the Social Enterprise Finder. We really encourage that. And if you are interested in membership, I've got our national sales manager, Rafe, his email there below. Also, if anyone's looking into that, feel free to give me a shout as well.
Sweet.
And the final Slido with 1 minute to go. Kris, no pressure.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I put the link in the chat again, guys. So yeah, we'd love to hear from what you took away from today and what your potential next step might be. So I'm just going to share my screen and watch those pop up, but really appreciate all of your time and the amazing work that you're already doing in this space. But yeah, next steps, what do they look like, Abby? What do you suggest?
What is your top takeaway action? I don't know, an easy one in the next 30 seconds or so could be going to the Social Enterprise Finder.
Yes, you could do that on our website. Have a look at that. To make a connection with a social enterprise that's popped up in your mind, because as we've been giving our examples, I'm sure that there's been others that you've thought of that you know of just from general life. But yeah, specifically in industry, there's a lot of discovery to do. So I would say research is another valid takeaway as well. I'm trying to show some results here. Sorry, I've got to click the button. There we go.
There we go. We got
Yeah,
there.
buying from them. Just cut straight to the end. Just buy. Sweet. No worries.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you know, it is as simple as that. I love that. Whoever put that, go you.
Yeah.
We need to loop you into these trainings to write that more often.
Exactly. So yeah, no, thanks very much everyone for participating and looking into LPs. Like, are we talking going through Record Crate and looking at those kind of LPs? Or sorry, who answered that one? I just want to clarify. LP.
LPs.
Hmm.
Well, whoever they are, they
Look
know
into
what
that.
LPs are. Look into it.
Thanks everyone.
Excellent. Great. All right. Fabulous. Will, do you want to say a final word?
Yeah, just to wrap it up, and maybe Kris, if you can pull your screen
Yep.
down. Thanks for joining us for the 2 webinars. Really appreciate it. I've been in touch with a few of you who filled out the volunteering form. I'll be sending that out via email again. If you have a look at it, it's just offering a couple of social enterprises or not-for-profits that you could volunteer with. And because we didn't want to come through with a job scope that was really rigid. What we wanted to do was connect you with an organization that you might be interested in and start thinking about ways you could support them. And we can actually facilitate those conversations for you to start volunteering over the next couple of weeks. So have a look at that email. Let me know which one you'd prefer to volunteer with, or if you're looking for something in a different area. We've just based it off your responses to the forms. But I'll be in touch via email over next week. We'd love to get you volunteering and involved in this space as well. But thanks so much for attending both webinars. We'll be catching up in 2 weeks' time for a bit of a recognition reflection session. But thanks so much for joining. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks, Kris.
Pleasure.